voice actor. I always feel like I'm in a meeting.
The mic I turned on.
Oh, it's fine. Which one's on? I'll move. I got it. I got you, girl. I got this. I've done this before. So hi, I'm Kara. I'm a voice actor, and probably the stuff you guys know me from Dragon Ball. I voiced Goten, Videl, and Gotenks, and Lion Manupa, and a few other characters. And from My Hero Academia, I'm going to be in season 4 as Bubble Girl. And you know me from Danganronpa, I'm Chihiro. You know me from Heaven's Lost Property. I voice Nymph. From High School DxD, I voice Aika. There's a list online with lots and lots of characters. So this is a super small group, and I'm just going to take those questions. If there's anything that you want to talk about, let's do that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you ever use your voice for something evil?
Oh, something evil. That's a great question. Yeah, so one of my favorite characters I ever voiced was a super evil character in a game called...
No, I talk about like if you go to like for the McDonald's drive-through.
Oh, to use it. Oh, that's
yeah, like
yeah,
outside.
Yeah, sales or when like people call your phone and they're trying to sell you something. Oh yeah, I haven't done this in years, but I used to pretend to be a little girl, and then my parents had left me home alone, and I'd be like, hello, I don't know where my mommy and dad's are. And then I would do this whole thing, and then I'd be like, I'm gonna turn on the oven, and then they'd be like, no.
Hang up.
Thankfully, we don't get sales calls the way we used to, because those were rough days.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, but I do stuff like that all the time. But never in a drive-thru. I have had my voice recognized in a drive-thru though.
Oh no.
So, and it's funny, they're like, I know your voice, but I don't know where I know your voice from. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, ma'am. Yes. Yes, sir.
What's it like voicing Gotenks? Like, are you and Alexis Tipton in the same room for that, or do they record your lines and then like piece them together? Or?
Oh, that's a great question. So originally, as you know, it started with Laura Bailey, voicing Trunks, and we started with the original show 20 years ago. And Laura would always go first. So the first time we ever voiced Gotenks, because we were the first character to fuse in Dragon Ball, so they were working it out, and they put us in the booth together. And it turns out because Laura's really active when she voices things, and so like she'd hit me, she'd hit the mic, like and we would get into like giggle fits, and nothing got done. So they scrapped that idea, and they're like, let's do it separately. So someone has to voice the character first, and then the other person comes in and they play the audio and you mimic it. So in the beginning, because Gotenks takes on more of Trunks' personality, we had Laura do everything. And then I would come in, I got really good over the years to where I could just mimic her voice, and we would just go through the lines really fast. When Alexis took over for the role, while she was given the opportunity to kind of get to know the character, they were like, Kara, we're going to have you go ahead and voice Gotenks first, and then she'll mimic you. And by the time it might have naturally switched, I was like, you know what, seniority, so I've kept it. And it's been really fun because Gotenks takes on Trunks' personality, it's really fun to, like, in Goten's voice, become a different character. And it's allowed me to take ownership of the role in a different way, which has been really fun. So, like, through fighters and all that stuff, it was really fun to just, like, sink into it and really, I hear Gotenks differently now, because before when I would hear Gotenks, I'm like, Laura did a good job with that, and I just mimicked it. And so now I'm like, that was me. That was my choice.
It's the same way for like Sean and Chris when they're Vegito, Gogeta.
And I'm actually not sure who goes first. They might trade back and forth, I'm not sure. That would actually be an interesting question. Now I think want to know.
Vegito, in theory, it's supposed to be Chris first and then Sean, because Vegito is more of Vegito's personality.
That's usually how they do the characters. Whoever it takes on more of the personality, then that's who goes first. So that's how it's done actually. Any fusion characters from here on out, that's how they do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it comes down to, it's also gotten easier over the years, because in the beginning, we didn't have the technology. So you had to get it right. Like it had to be an exact mimic. And Laura Bailey is a genius actor, and she can do things vocally that are insane. And she would do these little I would sit there and listen and be like, are you out of your mind? Like, I gotta mimic that? All right. So, and it had to be exact. Now, there's so many tricks you can do digitally with audio that if it's not exactly perfect, they can still go in and so Alexis doesn't know how good she has it, so. Yes, sir.
What are some of your favorite shows just to watch as a fan? Maybe not something you're involved in, just when
To
you're
watch.
at home, what you're watching.
So I don't get to watch a ton of TV because I have a 4-year-old.
Oh.
And he turns 4 in 2 weeks. So if you want to ask me what his favorite shows are, I can tell you about that. As far as anime goes, I'm really into My Hero Academia. This was the first time that I became a fan of a show before being cast in it. And I actually really wanted to be in the show. And talked to Colleen, and I'm like, I can't imagine getting through my career and not having a significant part of my hero. So when I found out it was Bubble Girl, I was like, so happy. And I'm super curious to see what happens with her. It's also the first time in my career that I was cast as a character, got to record enough of the character, because she has like 3 lines at the end of season 3. And so I was able to announce it and to talk about a character before I've even started recording her. We just finished the first episode that they premiered at Anime Expo. So I've only done the first episode, but now I have to wait till like September to start recording again.
Do you have a favorite character from Hero Academia?
Oh God, that's a great question. I just like them all. I just think I think the show's really well cast. I think it's really well directed. The actors, of course, are just so amazing. Justin Briner, who voices Deku, he's kind of new on the scene, new to us, and he's a genius. I love his choices. I love Cliff and the show. I've just been really impressed with the acting all around. So as far as anime, that's definitely my favorite. If it comes to like personal things that I watch, I'm big into like Stranger Things. My Walking Dead is my hands down. I'm a total fangirl over Walking Dead. So anytime I get to meet those actors, I'm just like, I love you. And I just did a con with Jesus like last month, and I was like, Tom Payne sitting next to me, and my line's longer. Yeah, so those are probably I like sci-fi a whole lot. So good question. Yes, sir.
Do you prefer voicing Goten or Videl?
Oh, that's such a good question. I get that one a lot. Okay, this is my honest answer. It's kind of like asking someone who's your favorite child. And the answer would be, it depends on the week. Because I think for people who have a lot of children, you love your children, you don't always like your children. And sometimes you might like one a whole lot, and then the other one you're like, this week. But it might change the next week, because then this kid's being a jerk and that one's being awesome. So it's very much the same with all of our characters, is it depends on the episode. I prefer Videl in Dragon Ball Z. I prefer Goten in Super. I'm struggling with Videl in Super, just because where's my girl? And I see so much myself in these characters because I've been able to sit with them for 20 years now. Half my life I've spent like voicing these characters. So anything involving Dragon Ball, it's one of the few shows I work on that I can actually say, like if the director has a direction, I can be like, no, I think you're wrong. And typically that's not the case. I mean, typically if a director's like, do it like this, because you trust your director to bring you to the best performance. And like Raleigh Pickens is the director of all things Dragon Ball, and he's a genius, and he knows these shows. And so 99% of the time he's gonna be like, no, it needs to be more like this. He's right, because he knows where we're going with the whole picture. And every once in a while it'll be like, I don't think Goten would say that. You know, and it's more Goten where I'm just like, no, that doesn't feel like a Goten line. Goten would say something funnier than that, so we get to rewrite. I'm given the freedom to do a lot of rewrites, which I rewrite a lot of the scripts to be things that my 4-year-old says, because he's really funny, and so he'll say something, and I'm like, oh, let's put it in the script, you know, which has been, so I see them differently. Like, I see myself as Videl. I feel like she and I have grown up together. And I feel like there was such a similarity when I first started voicing her. I was not much older than her when I started voicing her. And I kind of saw that in myself, like this need to prove myself, this need to show people that I was strong, while still being super vulnerable and insecure, which is how I see her. She's very three-dimensional. I believe she's the most three-dimensional character in Dragon Ball. And just also wanting to be like this role model for women, because there weren't a ton of female superheroes on TV at the time, so I was aware of that. Goten, for me, like through Dragon Ball Z, he was super fun, but now I have a little boy, and so I see him differently. Like when I'm in there, I'm trying to leave a legacy for my son now, and I'm like, I want my son to be able to watch that show and be like, that's a piece of me in there. So again, like it would be impossible for me to say, I like this one better, or I like that one better. Like I have mad love for both of them. But again, depending on the episode, sometimes I'm just like, wow, Videl really sucked in this episode. Why is she serving so much tea?
Super.
Huh?
She's virtually non-existent in Super.
I've been really disappointed. To have created a female character that is so dynamic and shows her true strength and grows so much, like has this gorgeous story arc, to kind of let her fall flat, I'm like, I have faith. I don't know. I just really do believe that at some point something's got to change somehow, and we see her come back into her own. I know there's one episode in Super where we see this glimpse of, oh yeah, Videl's got it. Don't forget, that girl can fight. That girl's got some sass. You know, and that felt like putting on my favorite pair of shoes. Like when I got to voice that episode, I was like, oh, there's my girl. You know, that feels good. So yeah, and even Goten, like the Goten and Trunks dynamic is such great comedy relief. I'm really hoping for something. But I don't know any more than you guys know. I just keep hoping. Let me grab some water. Yes.
When it came to doing the attacks with Laura Bailey and Alexis Tipton, which one would you say had to be your favorite one?
As far as all the different attacks, the Super Ghost Kamikaze attack, I don't know, that one always sticks out. I think it's hysterical. All there, and I mean the Dai missile barrage. I mean, there's so many hilarious. What the heck did they just say? Type things in there.
Galactic Donuts.
The Galactic Donuts is ridiculous.
Volleyball,
Oh,
where it
God.
turns into a volleyball and smash.
Oh, I mean, there's so many amazing. Did you guys see too? The Super Ghost is getting a pop. He's
Yeah.
getting an exclusive pop, and I'm like, yeah. Or did you guys see the failed fusion? There's a failed fusion pop coming out, and I'm like, my mind is blown.
Is it fat or skinny?
It's both. It's
Both?
duo. It's like,
Oh.
yeah, it has the fat one and the skinny
Oh my
one
God.
in the box,
That's
and I'm just
awesome.
like,
Oh, it's cool.
please let me get these for my collection. Yeah, so and that's the other thing. We have so much cool merchandise coming out for these characters that I just keep thinking, I'm like, you guys got to do something, man. Something cool is gonna happen. I feel it. I don't know, and I have no insider information. But yeah, I love those attacks. We had so much fun with them. Like, Gotenks is hysterical.
It's like one of the best characters, especially when he turns into a Super Saiyan 3 form.
Oh, yeah. And
Arrogant little brat.
man, I rock. Like, that was the, oh my God, I laughed so hard over that. Like, that actually was a different line. When he very first goes Super Saiyan 3, and he's holding a mirror, and he's like, it comes across, and he does it, he's like, you know, man, I rock. And there was a different line that was written, and it was probably Laura. I don't remember who did it first, me or Laura, but wrote that line in, and it was like, how ridiculous. Because it was so like, 1980s heavy metal rock star. Like, we were like, we gotta do something here. Such a memorable line. Good question. Okay, yes, sir.
So I know you got to meet both of your Japanese equivalents, Masako Nozawa and Yuko Minaguchi. How was that?
Unbelievable. Okay, so this is several years ago, in case you guys don't know. I get a phone call 2 weeks before Animazement, and they say, can we throw you on an airplane and fly you to North Carolina? I used to live in Charlotte, so I knew a lot of these people, and I was like, yeah, sure, okay. So I jump on an airplane. I was on the plane when I found out why I was going. I bawled. I cried so hard. So the first night we went to dinner, and we're sitting there, and I was so nervous. And they were sitting behind us. All the English voice actors were at one table, and all the Japanese voice actors were behind us. And we were, like, all of us were like, oh my God, they're really here, like, they're behind us. And they were so kind. Like, they wanted to meet us, and it just was this experience, especially meeting the voice of Adele. She was one of the sweetest people I have ever met. She was getting ready to, she had just taken a leave of absence from the show, and she came to New York to study English. And so we were talking, she wanted to practice her English that weekend, and so we were talking a whole lot. And now she's back as the voice of Adele, but I also got to meet the voice that took her place for all those years. That voice actor is actually married to Piccolo's voice actor? Yes.
Yeah.
Make sure I get it right. And there's a panel, and it's on YouTube if you guys ever get bored and want to see an amazing panel. They did a panel where it was almost the English cast and almost the entire Japanese cast, all on one panel. And the energy in the room, my fear at the time, because Dragon Ball was not at its height of popularity, and my fear at the time, I was like, we're probably going to have, I mean, there was probably 500 people there. It was really small, given what was happening. And I was like, what if they don't get it? Like, what if nobody understands how significant this is? Because it's never going to be repeated. And that was not the case. Like, the energy in the room was unbelievable. It was overwhelming. And the questions we got, that was the moment that it really hit home how special the show is. And there's a moment, it's on YouTube, where they come down the line and they're like, what's it like to meet your counterparts? Like, what's it like for the Japanese actors? What's it like for the English actors? And I went first, and I was just like, you know, typical me talking, and I'm like, oh, this is such an amazing experience. She's so sweet. She's blah, 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 blah. And they get to the voice of Adele, and they said, what's it like for you to meet Kara? And the whole panel, they were using translators, and she wanted to say it in English, and she leans forward and she says, when I met Kara, I knew I had met my family. And you just see me do this. Because I lost it. I lost it. I cried so hard. And I was just like, and that's what it felt like. It felt like we were meeting, I mean, she shaped so much of how I voiced Adele. She was such an inspiration for me, and still is, continues to be. But that was a really big part of listening to her, was like, okay, well, I'm going to do this with the character because she chose to do that. So I feel like in so many ways she was also a teacher for me. And just the respect, like, I mean, they're the original voices. They're the voices. We're just the English voices. And the amount of respect that they showed for us was overwhelming. And we got to do all these amazing things in the green room. Like, we had translators, and we would just get to sit in the green room and talk about what's it like to be a voice actor in Japan, what's it like to be a voice actor in America. They were completely blown away to find out I had a studio. Like, that doesn't happen in Japan. And so they just, it was this really loving weekend that I would give anything in the world to repeat today. I don't think it could ever happen again. It's funny, like a sad story from it, is that was the Battle of Gods had just been announced in Japan. We had not licensed it. I knew it was coming here, but we weren't allowed to say it was coming here, and we weren't allowed to say we'd be reprising our roles. So as far as our fans knew, it was over. But I knew what was happening. So I have this Battle of Gods poster, and I got the entire Japanese cast to sign it. And I was like, this is so valuable to me personally. There's no way I'm shipping it, because I don't trust our mail system. I'm taking this on the airplane with me, and guess who left it on the airplane?
Oh no!
So I just have this belief, I'm like, I have to tell myself, because I was devastated when I realized what I had done. And of course I called the airport like every day for weeks,
too
just
late.
Please get me this poster back. And I'm like, I just have to believe that somebody found it and they knew what it was. I just have to believe that there's like some super Dragon Ball fan out there with the greatest poster on his wall of all time, his or her wall. Like, that has to, so the thought that it could have ended up in the trash is beyond me.
Oh.
So it's on someone's wall, guys. I don't know who it is, but they're very lucky.
eBay, probably.
Or it's on eBay.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
which
eBay.
case it ended up on a super fan's wall. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
as long as it's on someone's wall. But yeah, that was a great weekend. Okay, more questions?
What do you do whenever you're not voice acting?
Great question. You heard me talk about my baby boy. I'm a mom. He's going to be 4 years old in 2 weeks, and he's a handful because he's 3. I'm a single mom, so that's the majority of what I do is take care of baby boy. I'm a full-time voice actor. I have a studio. In fact, I have a separate building on my property that I just converted into my dream recording studio, so when I get home, I've got to finish that. And anime is what I'm known for, but I actually do mostly commercial narration work. You hear me a lot on radio and TV, but the biggest thing I do is I work for Highlights Magazine, the children's magazine, and I record all of their magazines and all of their audio content, and I have been for over a decade. And we use it in China and throughout the world, mainly China. My voice is responsible for teaching over 100,000 children in China how to speak English.
Wow.
So that's probably the thing I'm the most proud of in my career. Super meaningful work. And I also do a lot of audio. I'm an audio engineer, so I can actually do the production and put the music and sound effects and everything. Now, outside of work, my biggest hobby is gardening. I like to grow my own food. And I like the challenge. I'm an organic gardener, so I like the challenge of like battling Texas bugs. It's kind of lame. Yeah, I'm mostly all about my baby boy because he doesn't give me any other options. So.
What shows does your baby boy watch? You mentioned it earlier.
Oh my gosh. Okay, right now, so it changes every 3 days. Right, so when it comes to shows that he super likes, anything Transformers.
Oh yeah.
He loves Transformers. The Rescue Bots, loves them. He is right now, and in fact he's currently grounded from YouTube because he got addicted to watching long videos of people transforming Transformers. Have you guys seen these? Like they're just like hour-long videos of 2 hands in front of the camera transforming the actual Transformer toys. And it can go on for hours. And and then he would get mean about it. And he's like, I don't know. It made him mean. So he's banned from YouTube right now. But if he was sitting here, he'd say, Transformers on YouTube? But what else does he like? PJ Masks, we went through that phase for a while. Last year's birthday party was PJ Masks theme.
Wow.
Ninjago.
Oh.
He likes that one. How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh.
He likes that one a lot. I try to keep him away. We have this joke because he's a very smart little dude. And so I'm always like, you can't watch anything that's violent. And so that's the first thing he says. He's like, will you put on the most violent show you can find?
I don't think so.
No. Yeah. He's not into the typical things that 3-year-olds are into. Like Doc McStuffins and the stuff that all our friends watch. He doesn't want that. He's super into like he's going to be an anime fan. There's no question.
Bonnie?
Unless I put on anime and I've tried to get him to watch stuff I'm in, and he can't totally make that connection. If he sees the action figures of my characters, he'll be like, oh, that's you, that's your character. You know, and he knows their names and stuff. Oh, that's Goten, that's Fidel, that's Bulgaro. Like, he can name them all. But he doesn't really make the connection. Like, if I show him the show and I'm like, yeah, that's Mommy. And he's like, yeah, that's your character, because you're a character. But he's not grasping.
Yeah.
Even though he's like, I mean, the studio's in my house, so he's seen it. And he's gone to Funimation, like he's been to Okratron. There's actually, gosh, which thing was it? I think it was one of the episodes of Super, and I have a picture of it on my Facebook, Instagram, he was itty bitty, he was probably like 18 months, but I voiced the entire episode with him on my head.
Aww.
And he was great, you know, he just watched. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, he's a good old dude. Any other questions? Well, you guys made this easy. Yes, sir.
Not really a question, but I'm kind of remembering this one thing from, because you mentioned the dynamic between Goten and Trunks when they're Gotenks. I'm remembering this thing from like way back in my childhood when I was playing Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2 on the PlayStation 2. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway.
Congratulations, you should be a voice actor.
I've been going through this in my mind. Like, there's this one moment where you could tag your characters out and plot out other characters. And there was a moment when you tagged out Gotenks would fly off screaming peanut butter jelly time. And I'm just like, I remember that for some reason.
I had not thought of that in so long. That's hilarious. We've had some serious, like, there's a lot of really great Easter eggs. We love to throw in little things here and there when we can get away with them. And then we'll do it so that we see the line, like we do the line as we're told to do it, and then we'll throw in an Easter egg. And I have to tell you, more often than not with Goten and Gotenks, the Easter eggs make it. Because I'll see the show and I'm like, I can't believe they love that. That's awesome.
Cha-ching.
Yeah.
That was an Easter egg.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That was probably one that we were like, we should do it like this, and then we're like, we'll see if that actually ends up being in there. Yeah. And we like to leave, we call them bombs, we leave bombs for each other sometimes. I'm not as good at them, but some of the actors that are like really good at improv will leave like really dirty or really like hilarious, inappropriate stuff that you're like, and then as you're the actor and you're acting off of them and you're about to read your line and they say something and you're like, yeah. We love to prank each other. Yeah.
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you can go back in time to your younger self, what can you say to your younger self?
Oh wow, that's a really great question. He was asking if I could go back in time and talk to my younger self. What would I say to my younger self? Oh, gosh, I'd say so much. Don't spend so much time being insecure, because you're so much better than you realize. Because I think if, you know, when I very first started, you have so much fear and insecurity and you doubt yourself so much. And you're comparing yourself to everyone else.
Yeah.
And like, do I live up to that? Do I stand up to that? And I think at this point in my career, I've done this, and this is literally how I've supported my child for 14 years full time. So you hit a point in your career where you're like, yeah, I actually know exactly what I'm doing. And you're always challenging yourself. You're never the expert, and there's always someone that's better than you. But you know, you're humble enough to keep learning, but confident enough to not be afraid to try something new. So there's this beautiful growth arc that happens, and I feel like I'm kind of there, where I used to get really nervous before sessions, or you know, and that affects your performance the second you're nervous. So like, I would go back and be like, girl, you got this. You don't have to be scared of what you're about to do. And also like to go through things in life, like you have so much anxiety. It's like, it actually does work out. And those things that are so scary to go through are the things that you look back on and you're so grateful that they happened because you became a better person. So, you know, and I would also tell the younger me, like, there probably would have been a lot of dudes I would have not dated.
Yeah, true.
To marry that one. Yeah, but that's just that it, like, you really do. It takes a minute to get there. And you have to go through all the insecurities to get to the security. So they are important, but just that self-belief that it really does work out and get better. Yeah, and then you're worth it. Yeah.
Sorry if this has been asked before, but what voices did you do for the My Hero Academia movie?
Oh, great question. So in the movie, I only did one voice. Oh no, actually, I think I did something else really minor that I don't even remember. It just says additional voices. In the very beginning of the movie, there's the girl, she's like the cheerleader, ringleader that is introducing all the other characters. And so, and she talks like this the whole time because she's so excited. And it's like, there's Deco's in first place. That's me. Yeah, so she's in the whole beginning of the movie. And then I think there was a couple little somethings in there. I had been told by the director that I was going to be a part of My Hero. I wasn't told what, and so when I was brought in to do the movie, I was like, oh, okay, so that's it. And I was a little disappointed because I was like, dang, man, I really thought it was going to be like something more than that. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? At least there's something that I did that's involved with the show that I really like. And I took a long break. Like in my career, you can look at my the list of shows I've done, and it's really obvious what happened is I was very much a part of Funimation, and then I took a radio job. I had a career in radio, and I wanted to focus on that. So I took a morning show gig in the Carolinas, and I left Dallas. That was before remote recording, so I would have to fly back to finish Dragon Ball Z. I was spending like $800-900 per flight, because Charlotte to Dallas is really expensive, and showing up and making like a couple $100 for the weekend. So I was losing so much money to go through Z that I told them, don't cast me in anything. And I pursued radio for a long time. When I came back to Dallas, I came back to Dallas in 2010, 2011. I mean, you can see this big arc. Like, there's a break where I'm not really in any of their shows. And then I got back and I'm like, cast me, cast me, cast me. And then I had my baby and I'm like, don't cast me. I'm really busy. And so now I'm just now getting back to where I'm doing more and more stuff. Because he's older, it's easier. So yeah, so it's interesting. Like, there's shows at Funimation that I see that I'm like, dang, I wish I was a part of that. Big one for me was Fruits Basket. Because I had just moved to North Carolina when they did Fruits Basket. And I remember Chris Sabat always saying to me, like, what a shame it was that I wasn't a part of the first round of that. Because I would have been, no question. Why? Because there were like 5 females that worked for Funimation. Like, not based on talent, just based on sheer numbers. I absolutely would have been a part of it. And so it was just, that was one that's always been this kind of sore spot for me. And when they announced that Fruits Basket was getting the remake, I actually sent, first time in my career, I sent an email to Funimation and I'm like, please, 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 please. But then I found out they were bringing back the original cast, which of course they are, and I'm so glad they did, because it's so fun to see the growth that the actors have. And they sound so great on the new one. So when I got the call from Caitlin that I was going to be Kana, it was very emotional for me. And it's such an emotional character. If you guys are familiar with the show, I don't want to spoil anything. It's a very emotional part of the story. And so to get to go in, and Caitlin Glass, who is the director, created such a safe space for me. And she had, I mean, we had salt lamps glowing, and they were playing the music, and it allowed me to get to an emotional place where when you hear Kana crying, I was crying. Like, it was all very real for me. And so it was such a short part, because she's only in one episode, but she's so pivotal. And that was something very sentimental for me to go back, and I feel like it righted a wrong in my own personal life. Whereas, like, I should have been here, I should have stayed. But again, you don't know those things. Like, okay, if I could talk to young Kara, if I could go back and talk to 20-year-old Kara, I'd tell her to keep working in anime. That's a regret that I'll always have, is that I left. But again, I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't left and had all those life lessons. So, you know, chicken nugget.
So you moving, was that why Vidal got a new voice in GT, I wonder?
Yes! That's exactly, sorry, I didn't mean to scream at everybody. Yeah, that's exactly why. So that's what I was saying, is I was spending so much money. I was losing money doing the Z, and I wanted to finish Z because I was like, I want to be a part of it. We didn't know this was going to go on forever. Like, we thought it was over. So we looked at GT, that's the end of it. Nobody likes GT. Let's be real. It's not that great. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stop losing money on this. Susan Huber is a friend of mine. I had worked with her at Disney, and she's a great actor. And so Susan Huber took over for the role. It just made more sense. She was there, and Vidal's in it so little that I would have lost thousands of dollars on air travel for like something so small. Now, talk to younger Kara. If someone had told me, hey, did you know that you're like, for the rest of your life you're going to talk about this show, and for the rest of your life you're going to have, in some capacity, probably be voicing something for this show. You know, there has not been a year in 20 years that I haven't voiced something for Dragon Ball, on games or shows or something. No way would I have let someone else voice that character. Like, I would have lost the money and been there. And as long as I'm breathing and somebody doesn't fire me for some unknown reason, I am the voice of these characters. Like, there's nothing that I'm gonna do to make me not voice these characters. So yeah, that's one, in hindsight, I wish I was in it, because it's like, I wish I had, yeah. But that's why. It just didn't make sense at the time. And again, we all thought it was over. So I was like, Susan will do a great job, it'll save me some money.
Because when I watched GT the first time, it threw me off that Vidal sounded different.
Yeah, and that's what, I think I have a really distinctive voice that's hard, and it's actually been a detriment to me because of how popular Z is and how recognizable my voice is with Vidal. It has kept me from a lot of roles where people will be like, well, we were going to cast you, but then it just sounds like Vidal. And I'm like, because that's my voice. You know, so unless it's a character that I can really change the voice or really take on a different personality, because I know I even saw that with Bubble Girl and My Hero. People are like, oh, it's Vidal. And I'm like, no. I try really hard to non-Vidal as much as I can, but, you know, my voice is my voice. So, yeah, it stands out. I know I get that about GT a lot. I know it stands out.
Maybe they make a new GT, like the fruit staff skits.
They make a new GT, that's me. Oh God, watch them bring back Susan Huber. And I'd be like, be devastated. Yeah, it's me as long as Funimation says it's me.
Your voice work as Vidal in Fighters, though, I think is awesome. That's where your girl is there. The old Vidal
I
came
had
back.
so much fun voicing that game, and then I had to keep it a secret for like a year.
Oh, yeah.
And every convention I did, everybody's like, do you think Vidal will ever be in Fighters? And I'm like,
You're like,
and then I was like getting harder and harder to keep this secret because I was so excited about it. And I'm like, so yeah, that one was fun. Trivia, when I was voicing Gotenks for Fighters, I had pneumonia. And it was, I was out of the main part of it, but I was still coughing really bad. And the voice was there, my voice was fine, I just, good God. And so, and it takes so much energy. So when I voice Gotenks, I have to do this after every line. And I don't know why, it's just like, I can't voice him unless I do that. Because everything he says, because he just gets this attitude, you know? Ugh, super ghost kamikaze attack! Like, I have to do that. And so, I'm so physical voicing the lines, and I'm coughing, and all this stuff happens halfway through the session. I was with Stephen and Terry Hoff, who were directing, and have a cough, and we're taking these breaks, and I'm like, it just kept getting increasingly painful in my ribs. And at one point, like the pain was so unbearable, I was like, we have to break. I get out, I'm just sitting against the wall, I'm shaking, like everything hurts. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna do this. And I go back in, I finish the entire game. And the next day I went to get an x-ray and I had dislocated 2 of my ribs while voicing the game. Because I was so like, and I'm like, yeah, people think voice acting's so easy.
That sounds awesome.
Like, I hurt myself for that game.
You sound awesome as Gotenks in it. My friend Nathan, his favorite line is when you, like, I'm the Grim Reaper of Justice.
Oh yeah, Justice. He's so much fun, like, he's therapy. Like, anytime I get to voice a character, there's the one I was gonna mention earlier is the evil characters. You guys don't know this character because I think only 5 people actually played this game called Battleborn. But I voiced a character named Shane, one of the main playable characters. But if you play long enough into the game, and nobody ever has, there's a character named Sister Arya. And I was so shocked they cast me. I almost didn't do the audition, because when the audition came out, I was like, nobody's going to cast me in this. Because it was like stereotypical, like it's going to be a Colleen Klinkenbeard, or, you know, somebody who can do the like deep-voiced, witchy, evil, you know, character. And so I did this really bizarre audition, just because it was on a whim. I was like, well, maybe I'll do something weird and see what happens. And I did, and I got cast. And they were like, that was not the direction we were planning to go until we heard your audition. And then we were like, dude, we're so casting her. And it was therapy, like being in there and it just being so evil and getting to say these horrible things. She's a terrible human. And when you get to do those characters like Gotenks, where you just get to, you walk out of there and you're like, oh man, it feels like I've been in a spa, except for my throat hurts. Yeah.
What would be your best recommendations for somebody who's dream is voice acting, and like what avenues would you recommend them to take to try and help make it to their dream?
Great question.
Thank you.
So how would you become a voice actor? It is not like it was when I began. I literally answered an ad in the paper. That's how I got cast in Dragon Ball. So now it's something that is so difficult to try to break into, but there are avenues. And just like with any career, it comes to training. Always start with improv classes. I think improv is a great way to learn to think outside of the box, learn how to commit to a character, learn how to create a character, learn how to take direction and all those things. So starting with improv, moving into acting classes, scene study, voice actors are actors. You gotta be able to take something and run with it and make a commitment and really take that character to the next level. Then voice acting classes. And then figuring out what is your goal. Is your goal to voice anime? Well, then you probably want to study with like Sonny Strait or Chris Stryker or Chuck Huber, one of the guys who, guys and gals who teach specifically anime. And by the way, if your goal is to voice anime, I suggest keeping Plan B, because there's no money in anime. It's the lowest paying voice work out there. If your goal is to make a living as a voice actor, then you want to study everything. Commercial narration is where the money really is. Trailer, promo, e-learning, all that type stuff. That's where the real money is. So that's how you have to be able to have eggs in every imaginable basket, and then you can actually start earning money. But some people will tell me, like, I just want to be in an anime. Like, I want to keep doing my day job, but I just want to voice one anime. Okay, well then it's character development, and then also learning how to, because the anime is very specific, you got to be able to learn how to talk to a limited mouth, you know, versus original animation and video games, because they're all very, very different. And it just comes down to training. And it's disappointing because I have people all the time that are like, but I have such a great voice. And I'm like, great, it doesn't matter. Like, you still have to take all the classes. Like, you know, you can be great with your hands, but if you want to be a heart surgeon, you still got to go to school. So yeah, it's just taking the training. And nowadays there's so many avenues, but be really careful because there's also a lot of people out there that take advantage of people. I see it a lot where they're, you know, look at what they're doing and look at their roster. You know, have they trained amazing actors? Maybe somebody to consider. Are they an amazing actor with a ton of experience? Somebody to consider. Are they someone who's been in 3 shows and now they're a teacher? Maybe just go ahead and skip that class. You know, go ahead and hold your money. Because there are people who were like, I'm going to teach and take your money, but I don't know that you're going to get anything out of the class. So, yeah, just be wary of that.
What would you recommend once you have all the training? Like, how do you like find an agent, and like, how do you actually put your voice on the market?
So, and that's where studying with the right person makes a big difference.
Thank you.
Because a great teacher can help you with that.
Perfect.
Yeah, a great teacher is going to give you those recommendations you need. From there, you got to have a killer demo, and not a homemade demo, a professional demo. Then you got to have a great website that they can go to that looks professional. And from there, this is where it gets difficult. The more work you have, the easier it is to get an agent. You need the agent to get the work. So putting your name out there and getting things, like marketing directly to the production studios so that you can start getting stuff on your roster where you can be, so you can go to the agent and be like, hi, I'm the voice of blah, blah, blah. Now, how competitive is this industry right now? I just had a big agent in LA turn me down. Yeah. I'm on, I don't even know how many cartoons currently, and I'm national. I'm the voice of national commercials. I'm the voice of Highlights magazine. I'm working every single day at my studio, and they just turned me down. And the reason they said they turned me down is they were like, yeah, there's too many. We already have too many women on our roster. Cool. Okay. So that also says the agent isn't everything. I work with like about 5 agents right now. I get the majority of my work myself. You know, agents are great. They are not the be all end all. So you have to really kind of take hold of your own career. That's my belief anyway. And in with all these cameras pointed at my face right now, I'm like, how many agents did I just lose?
That was awesome, so thank you.
Absolutely, good luck. Yes, sir?
What was the transition from, so you were voice acting before radio?
Yeah. Oh, not true. So I was hired, I was teaching inline skating classes, this is how long ago this was, and somebody who was in the class asked me if I had any desire to do radio. I was in college at the time, and I was like, yeah, I'll do an internship, because I was studying broadcast journalism. I had this dream of being a TV reporter. And it ended up being a station that was next door to Radio Disney. So Radio Disney heard my voice. I was super young. They brought me on. They gave me my own show with Kyle Aber. And we did the Squeege and Kara show for like 6 years. While I was working for Disney, they started having me voice commercials. And I was doing a lot of commercial work for Disney. Then they brought in somebody to train us in character voices. So we started doing all this character work, and then it just kept growing from there. But my first agent heard me on the radio and called the radio station and signed me on the spot. And then, but I didn't really start, my first paid gig was Dragon Ball.
Wow.
You know, and again, I saw an ad in the paper, and Kyle was a fan of the show, and he's like, hey, let's go do this audition. And I'm like, okay.
But you had the preparation from radio
For sure.
to hop into the main career that, you really care about. And,
Yep.
you know,
And I did radio for 11 years, and then I was like, you know what? I really want to pursue voice acting full time. So I started my business, went into voice acting. I already had a huge roster of clients at that point. So I very naively thought, all I have to do is build a studio and everybody's going to hire me. And I fell flat on my face. The first year that I went full-time in voice acting, I made $8,000 for the whole year.
Wow.
Not going to support me that way. So I had to rethink everything, and I started taking every class 2 minutes. I started taking every class that I could take, like every class. And I started with business. I took marketing classes, branding classes, negotiating classes, how to negotiate rates, I went to every seminar. I literally soaked up the knowledge. And then when I came out swinging, and it was like, and now I approach it not like I'm a talent, where I'm like, I'm the actor. Nobody likes working with that guy. So people want to work with people who are professional. So now when I walk in, I want to get the job done. I want to be super friendly and say hey to everybody, and sometimes bring them donuts, and then get out. And try to remember to send an invoice, because I'm bad at that. But that's how I see my business now, is just stay professional, meet my deadlines, keep my head down, because that's the other thing, people love people that they don't have to think about. Keep my head down, get the job done, and don't be a hassle. When I started really approaching it as a business, that's when I started making a living.
Thank you.
Yeah, good questions. Okay, guys, well, that's it for me. Y'all were amazing. This was a small group. I was like, we might be here 10 minutes. I don't know, but y'all were amazing, so thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a little break, and then I'm going to be back in the autograph area for the rest of the day. I will be there. And we have lots of fun stuff tomorrow, too. I'm going to be in that autograph area all day tomorrow until I have a panel tomorrow night, but otherwise I'm around the weekend. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And by the way, as we were talking, I've actually just gotten like 4 phone calls from my manager in LA. So how does this job work? You're on all the time. In fact, she's going to be like, you're where?